Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts show number 49. We're your hosts, Dave and
Vialet.
Our guest today is Phoenix LeFae. Where there's a witch, there's a way. Phoenix has been practicing witchcraft for over 25 years. She weaves a tapestry of traditions, including eclectic witchcraft, Wicca, Druidry, and rootwork. She has spent a lifetime studying myth, magic, and mystery. Phoenix now shares that knowledge with her students and clients across the globe. Her new book is What is Remembered Lives, Developing Relationships with Deities, Ancestors, and the Fae. Welcome, Phoenix. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I haven't talked to too many witches, frankly, so tell me a little bit more about your world and how you got into it.
Yeah, nice.
How you found your path.
Yeah, I love that you don't talk to many witches because that's like all I talk to in my world, so it's nice. So as I was mentioning to Violet earlier, I wasn't raised in a religious household, so that wasn't part of my growing up. It was just, it was curious and interesting, and I would watch my friends go through catechism and things like that, and was curious, but it was never part of my world. And then as a young teen, I had my heart broken, as is typical for teens to experience. But it was really devastating for me. I was really lost. And part of my very young wisdom, I thought, well, if I had been raised with religion, maybe I would have that to fall back on. Perhaps I would have that to hold me and to offer me solace and comfort. So I started exploring religion. I would tag along with my friends to different services and different faiths and traditions. I read everything I could get my hands on about Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism and Catholicism, all the isms. I was just really drawn to faith. I find it all very beautiful. And it's all very different. And it took me a while. One day in a bookshop in the 90s, I stumbled across a book about witchcraft. And there was a little devious part of me that thought, oh, witchcraft, that might solve my problems. Maybe I can get that boy back.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked up this book and it talked about the earth as an entity and worshiping and working with that energy and the divine feminine and all of these things that I already believed and felt in my heart, but didn't have names for and didn't think existed. And in the 90s, there was kind of a witchcraft revival to a certain extent. There was a lot of new books being published and information more readily available. The internet was just sort of blossoming. And so there was a lot for me to read and find and discover. And that kind of led to it. What my mom thought might be a phase ended up being 30 years later. I have a witchy shop and I'm teaching other people how to do it.
So where's your witchy shop located?
Yeah, so Milk and Honey, it's in Sebastopol, California. It's a little town. Okay. We're about an hour north of San Francisco and really close to Bodega Bay for people who are familiar with the Birds movie. It was filmed in Bodega. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, there are a lot of different flavors of witchcraft.
Yes.
At least that's what I discern. What are some of the different kinds, and are there kinds that you would tend to either embrace or distance yourself from?
Yeah, there are a lot of different flavors. And, one of the ways that I try to describe it is that there are those who come to work with the craft as a craft. It is not their faith. It is not their spiritual work. It is more about the activity of it. And then there are those that come to this path more like myself, where this is also my spiritual path. This is not just the craft of it or doing spells or rituals or things like that, but it's also how I feed my spirit and how I connect to the mystery of the world. And it can be complicated if you're new to this world, because just like, Christianity is like an umbrella, and under that umbrella there's Baptists and Protestants and Catholics, and they all have a similar language, but they're very different in practice. And witchcraft is the same way. There's lots of different traditions, lots of different ways of practicing, and so you kind of have to find your path. And sometimes you can make your own path. So it's very open in that way. It's about discovering your spiritual world. And personally, there's not anything I would totally avoid. I think that I don't want to work with negative energies. I don't want to do curses. I don't want to cause harm. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for upliftment and expansion and self-awareness. So that's the side of the craft that I don't work with personally. But I think that it is about self-awareness, and the more you understand yourself and your motivations, the less you're interested in doing things like that anyway. Yeah.
In terms of the words witchcraft versus Wicca,
Yeah.
is there a difference?
Yeah, there is. What's funny is there's a whole new revival of witchcraft that's going on right now. It's fascinating because I have watched this happen a couple of times over the last 30 years. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people rejecting the term Wicca or Wiccan. And Wicca is a specific tradition, or there's lots of traditions within the Wicca umbrella. It's like a mini umbrella under the bigger umbrella.
Okay.
But a lot of folks come to this path, want to call themselves a witch, want to practice witchcraft, and are uninterested in the tradition of Wicca. Wicca is a religion. It's very focused on a specific path and doing work and ritual and communion with the divine a specific way. And I think that the youth that are coming into this path right now that are interested are not looking for tradition. They're not looking for the old way of doing things. They're looking for the way that fits the world now. So they're kind of leaving Wicca in the dust and running with this witchcraft for what it is now. So it's pretty interesting. There's a shakeup happening in our world. Okay.
How do men fit in witchcraft these days as it's being practiced? Is there a place for men?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft, which is one of the traditions I most heavily practice in, is a feminist tradition, but it is not for women only. It's open to all genders. There are men that practice in all of the different traditions that I've been a part of. There's lots of men practitioners. There are men writing books and teaching and sharing their information as witches. There is a debate about the word warlock. Some people say that that's a negative term. Some people say that that's just a descriptor for a male witch. It's kind of, your mileage may vary. You have to decide for yourself. But I do know beautiful, talented, kind, caring, gentle men that do call themselves warlock. So it's, what's beautiful and maddening is that there's no one way.
Well, how does the word wizard figure in there? Is a wizard different than a warlock?
I think personally, you could ask 10 witches and get 10 different answers. I think it is different. I think a wizard I would align that more with like a magician style energy, where they're a ceremonial magician. They're more interested in the scientific experiment of spells and the craft.
Like a Merlin.
Exactly.
Image.
Yeah. Where a witch is maybe more like, it's a smaller practice. It's an individual practice. It's a spirit practice, not necessarily the alchemist. I think of a wizard more on that path.
Okay, that makes sense. And
just lots of terms, aren't they? Magician, witch, warlock, wizard, Merlin, and I would think, there's some people out there that have been raised in traditional religious, and there's a lot of fear around words like witch and magic and wizard and mysticism. And there's a lot of fear that comes in with that, right?
Absolutely.
Of wherever your belief systems are. And in reading your book, what I noticed, Phoenix, is you're really connected to the spirits of the earth.
Yeah.
All of the elementals, what I call elementals, you call them fae. They're just words and how we define and what we call them and what we look at, but just really connecting into that energy of earth energy and being connected. I mean, we could even look at Native Americans were connected to the earth and that earth energy, right? It's just how we step into it. So, words have real define. So I love the question that Dave asked. Well, what's the difference in a wizard or a magician or all of that? So thanks for clarifying that, because I think everybody's different.
Yeah. And you said something there that for me that nails it on the head, is that, if you look at our wider culture, if you look at the mainstream, there is this dis-ease. There's this illness that we are experiencing, and it's disconnection. We all live in these little magic boxes called phones that are in our pockets. We have, we have invisible magic that connects us. We're having a conversation right now. I'm on Wi-Fi. It's invisible. It's we have huge glowing boxes of entertainment in our homes, and all of those things remove us from the wild. They remove us from our relationship with nature. And in my very humble opinion, that is a huge problem for us as a culture. When we distance ourselves from nature, when we think we're more important than nature, when we take and don't understand the reciprocity of having a relationship with nature, that's what causes problems. It causes mental illness. It causes deforestation, climate change, like all of these big things that we're dealing with as a culture. If there was a way to shift our energetic as a mainstream society to being reconnected, I think that it would really change our world. And that's no small task.
No.
But I think, that's a big part of it. And those of us who are more spiritually inclined, more open, more connected to the earth, the elementals, whatever your phraseology is, I think that we get that.
Very true. And our children, right? I mean, I think about, and I'm older, okay, I get it. But when I grew up, Mom said, get outside. Don't come back until lunchtime, right? You get outside, we climbed trees, we played in the creek, we gathered leaves, we made mud pies, we connected to nature, we were outside. And I don't think my grandchildren spend much time outside, right? They're more interested in playing video games and watching TV and being connected to these electronic boxes than they are the connection to the tree, touching the tree. Like, I'm so jealous that you live close to the redwoods. I want to go and sit in the middle of them and really connect to them, because I can only imagine what that energy is like, right? I've driven by them, but I haven't connected. So you're so right that so many of us have missed out on that. Dave, have you ever connected to the trees? I like connecting into the trees.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I did hear something sad recently about the redwoods, that the one that had the thing cut through it so you could drive through it, that one finally died and collapsed.
Yeah, during the big winds last year.
Yeah.
So. Kind of sad. But they hold such ancient wisdom for us. When we
Absolutely.
can connect into it. So talk to us a little bit about Phoenix. You talk in your book about Fae. Describe Fae to people that may not know what that is.
Yeah, so it's a complicated topic that I try and simplify, I use this umbrella concept quite a bit. The Fae is also like an umbrella, and there's all of these subcategories underneath it. And what many of us think of when we hear Fae or fairies is like Tinkerbell, these little sweet little things with wings. And that's a very Victorian concept. We're very influenced by the Victorian era. But if you go a little bit further back than that, in Europe and in the UK and Ireland, Fairies were not like Tinkerbell. They were big and scary. There were lots of different types of them, and they were very much connected to nature, and they didn't always treat humans kindly because, well, lots of reasons. But then if you start to widen your scope and look at other cultures, you can see Fae, quote unquote, in practically every culture on the planet. There is some elemental, like you said, there's some spirit being, nature spirit, what have you, that humans either interact with or have a challenging relationship with or have folklore around. So there is something to it when every culture on the planet has a word for fairy or has a word for a nature spirit or what have you. It's fascinating. I love folklore. I'm a super nerd about mythology and folklore. It's endlessly fascinating to see how our ancestors viewed the world. And like you were saying, if you go sit in the redwood grove, you can have a conversation with a tree. And so are you having a conversation with the tree? Yes. Are you having a conversation with a nature spirit? Yes. Is there a spiritual entity that cares for that forest? I don't know. I can't answer that question. I would say yes, and my personal experience would say yes. But I also understand that everyone's mileage may vary, and the world is very different for each of us. But there are these small entities that share our homes, our front yards, the local parks. And then there are these massive entities that are like the mountain range we live by, or the forest that we live by, or the ocean, or the lake, or the river. And I joke about this in the book about the only thing I remember from 8th grade science class is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. That's all that stuck. And that's sort of how I think of the Fae as well. The Fae is the kingdom. And underneath that, it gets very complicated. And there are lots of different divisions and derivations and locality. The Fae that might live in the Redwood Grove, you're probably not going to find on the mountains in Denver, but there are different Fae there. And so it's all about connecting to the spirits of your place and the spirits of the land where you live. And I think that's important because when you have a relationship with a human, you care about that human, you want to protect that human, you do things to show them that you love them. And I feel a relationship with a spiritual entity, with the land, with the forest or the local park, you love that place, you care about it, you want to take care of it, and you do things to show it that you feel that way. So this is my secret way of convincing people we need to be more connected to the land. Yeah.
And take care of it and love it, right? Pick up
Absolutely.
the trash.
Yeah.
Be observant of it. If you cut a tree down, can you put a tree back?
Right.
Just being responsible.
Yeah.
We have what I call fairies at our center. We have fairy doors. I have 30-something fairy doors hidden throughout my center.
I love it.
And we have staff that work there. One of my staff members called me one day and she goes, I was here because she closed. She was at the store by herself. And she goes, I saw something, flitter across the floor. Yeah. And she goes, I just knew you had a rodent in here. And she goes, it really scared me because I don't want to see rodents. I said, no, you're seeing the fairies flying and talking and playing in the center. And then when she started paying attention, they were like little flashes of light. And I said, they're here because I invited them to come and live with us and create their homes here and be part of it. And yes, in our classes, they can sometimes be very playful and they will block people's phones and they won't work correctly and they do all kinds of stuff. And I have to say, okay, you got to let us be able to use it. Thank you for playing. And we used to have a practitioner in the center, and he goes, your fairies yell at me every time I go to the bathroom. And I said, what are they yelling at you at? Because I'm using too many paper towels. They don't like it.
I love it. That's awesome.
So I said, they're just caring for the place and loving the place and wanting us to be respectful. And respectful for our land and everything there. So if you want to connect with them, they can definitely be part of your life and they can be beautiful. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they're everywhere. You know, you can live in the middle of a very dense city and there are still spiritual nature beings there. There are still fae beings there. So you don't have to be out in the woods or out in the country to connect to nature beings. They're everywhere. You just have to pay attention.
Yeah, I would love to go to New York City and see what fae beings are there, right? You know, but they're there. They're there.
Yeah.
People that are open to it, they're there if you want to connect. So pretty cool in doing that. So how do you develop relationships with these nature beings? What can you do to create relationships, Phoenix?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's about time. And that is something that a lot of us modern westernized folks are not good at. We're not necessarily patient, but it is about time. And it's just, you have to compare it to a human relationship. When you meet a new human, whether that's for romance or friendship or a coworker or whatever, it takes time to get to know that person. You don't immediately know everything about someone. You don't immediately know how someone likes to be treated or what kind of foods they like or what their favorite hobbies are. Those are things that take time to learn. And it's the same with developing a relationship with any nature spirit or any spiritual being, period, as far as I'm concerned. So it is, you know, and some of this I totally understand sounds a little nutty. If I went to the grocery store and talked to the average American and said, just set up a little shrine and start talking out loud, people would think I was a little bit crazy. I totally understand that, but it works. So it's about communion and making space. So, you know, creating an altar, and that could be the corner of a kitchen table or an elaborate temple room, right? It doesn't matter what size it is. It matters what your intention is and that you're putting your energy out there. And leaving offerings and saying out loud, hey, I don't know who's living in my home with me right now, but I'm interested in learning about you. I'm interested in having a relationship with you. And here I'm going to light this candle as a sign that I'm open, that my heart is open. And then you have to pay attention to the subtlety. And I'll tell you what, I, at my heart, am a skeptic. So I know I talk about very weird, woo, esoteric concepts, but I'm a skeptic and I don't have grand visions. I don't see entities walking into my space. The way I experience the divine is very subtle. So you might be blessed and see full-on entities reveal themselves to you. You might hear whispers. You might get a feeling. The hair on the back of your neck might stand up all of a sudden. Or you might just notice the subtle thing that, like you said, the thing scuttling by out of the corner of your eye, the little twinkle of lights all of a sudden that makes no sense, things missing, right? The fae love to take your stuff. So if you put your hairbrush in the same place every day, and then one day it's not there and you can't find it anywhere, that's a sign. But it is making yourself feel a little weird and odd and awkward, and that's part of the magic of it. Is you have to be willing to feel silly and daring in that way, and start to pay attention to the subtlety and the changes and the shifts as they start to happen. And one of the things recently, before we just moved in October, I had a very firm relationship with the spirits of our old house because we lived there for 15 years. And there was a little cement patio in our backyard, and occasionally something would be left, like a flat bead. Those, like blue and red iridescent flat squished beads would just be in the middle of that cement patio, like dead center. It absolutely could have been a bird, sure, but for it to repeatedly show up in that one spot, I always took that as a sign that the fairies were thanking me for the offerings or leaving me a little message or telling me that they needed to chat. And so it's noticing things like that. You have to pay attention. You have to watch the subtlety.
What is an offering? What do you mean by offering? For those listening,
Yeah.
What are you leaving as offerings?
That's a really good question. So an offering can be whatever you feel inclined to give. Ideally, it should be something natural that can break down so you're not causing harm to the local environment. But food, water, a little bit of milk, a little bit of honey, it's very traditional of European fairies to leave milk and honey as an offering. So, you might try that, but if you're not European and don't live in Europe, that might not work. You might have to test things out. What's a food that only exists where you are? Like here where I live, Gravenstein apples. They're only from here. They're a natural local food. And so that's something I often give to the spirits of the land, is a Gravenstein apple. I just put it outside in the little shrine area that I have set up, and I say out loud to myself, to them, "Hello, beloveds. I'm bringing you this apple as a sign that I love you. And here is a gift for today." And then sometimes it disappears. It's probably a raccoon. But they're spirits of the land too. Sometimes it shrivels up and turns into a little dried out husk. Sometimes I clear it away before that happens and put something fresh there. It's all about listening to your gut and trusting your intuition on what to do with those offerings and what to leave.
Well, that sounds great. We're going to have to take a short break here. We're going to have some information about the store at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master and Teacher of Angelic Reiki at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you love angels, if you resonate with angels, or you're just interested in learning more about angels, most people really want to consider Angelic Reiki. But Angelic Reiki is more than just working with the angels and learning a new healing modality. It's about ascension. And when you step into Angelic Reiki, you're not only working with angels, but you're working with ascended masters and galactic healers. The angelic kingdom of light, which includes all of those, steps in and helps you be able to hold more light. And what I have found along this journey is it expands your ability to be able to hold light, which raises your frequency, which accelerates your ascension process. So the individuals that step onto Angelic Reiki are really ready to step onto their spiritual path, learn more about angels, ascended masters, galactic healers, learn possibly a new healing modality that they'll use in their life, but also they're ready for those major shifts in their lives to really be on their spiritual path and take their journey to the next level. If you've been thinking about Angelic Reiki, or you'd like to find out more about this beautiful modality, please don't hesitate to contact me, Violet, at discoveryourspiritualgifts.com, or check out our website under classes. You will find Angelic Reiki there with lots of information about this program and the benefits of taking this course. We hope to see you in class really soon, and I hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Welcome back to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. We have our guest today, Phoenix LeFae, talking about witchcraft and her great book, What is Remembered Lives, Developing Relationships with Deities, Ancestors, and the Fae. So you were talking about leaving treats for the fairies and having those go away. I have a wonderful friend. She is so close to the earth, and she has beautiful children, and she's tremendously intuitive. They come around her so much, they show up on video, and
nice.
She has videos of little fairies. Truly, they are little women with wings about an inch and a half tall, flying around her son's head. Nice. It's just incredible. And it's one of those things where you say, if I didn't know her and trust her, and I was a little bit skeptical, I'd say, oh, this is fake. But no, they are truly little beings flying around her son's head. She has pictures out her window where they fly up to the screen to meet her and show up on her videos there. And it's just tremendous, the activity that she cultivates around her house.
Nice. I love it.
And she gets excited every time she gets a new video. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Look at the video. You can see them. But just very sweet woman. Just sweet how they attract, right?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is the more you're open, the more you're willing, the more you communicate, the easier it gets, and the more they show up, because you get used to seeing the signs. You get used to noticing, okay, I'm feeling that shift in energy. I'm going to pay closer attention right now. You get better at discerning what's going on, so it is a practice and it takes time to develop. I think that can be part of the frustration is I want it now. I want to see the thing now. And you have to let yourself be slow and practice.
Another friend of mine bought a little tiny set of chairs and a little table and created a little fairy setting out by one of the trees in her backyard. And when her grandkids would come, they'd go play with it and move it to other places. And she said after they left, she'd go out there the next day and it'd all be back to where it was supposed to be.
Yeah. That sounds pretty typical.
So they'd rearrange the furniture to their liking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sounds pretty typical.
My chairs again. I gotta put them back.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, put it back where you found it.
Right. I'm always having to clean up after those kids.
So talk to us a little bit, Phoenix, about ancestors, because I know your book talks about ancestors and staying connected, and I thought it was a pretty important piece of the book.
Yeah.
Share with us a little bit about that and how we keep the dead alive within us.
Yeah. So the book's called What Is Remembered Lives, and that is a statement that we make in my spiritual tradition when a beloved passes away. We say, I'm sorry for your loss. What is remembered lives. Because the idea is, even though someone may not be here physically anymore, as we remember them, they live on. As we tell their stories, they live on. As we share the wisdom that they shared with us, with others, they live on through that wisdom. And so working with ancestors is a very spiritual process. And this is, again, I talk about the Fae being this global concept. Ancestral veneration is found all over the globe. And it comes in lots of different forms, from like Dia de los Muertos, which is very popular in Mexico and South America, on November 1st, taking the picnic out to the cemetery and having a feast and remembering our beloved dead, right? It's a way of remembering and honoring our ancestors. In the East, in China, it's very common to find ancestral shrines in people's homes. And the belief is if someone crosses over, well, they're going to help you from the other side. So you have to give them things. You have to feed them with food and drink and incense and offerings so that they'll help you on the other side, because the belief is they have a spiritual advantage over us who still have physical bodies to maintain. So there's lots of different ways to approach it, but the bottom line is all about remembering and sharing what we remember. And so ancestor veneration is this way of connecting to the past and remembering who we are. Even if what I hear a lot is, well, my parents were terrible people, or my grandfather was a terrible human, and I don't want to venerate that person. Absolutely, I get it. You are never required to work with someone who is terrible or abusive or did things to cause harm for you in your life. But there are others. There are older ancestors. There is a lineage of humans that made it possible for you to be alive. To me, that's magic. That's a freaking miracle. Just the chance of all of these hundreds of thousands of people leading to me is just magnificent. And so just taking a moment, all of that lineage, all of that wisdom, all of that happenstance and magic and mystery exists in my body, like my blood, my bone, my flesh. The fact that I had to have braces, the fact that I have blue eyes and red hair, like these are all things that come from that line. That's magnificent. So if we can honor that, it helps us to remember who we are. It helps us to remember how we got here. And it helps to keep those ancestors alive. I always talk about altars because that's the easiest way to start a conversation. So in my home, we have an altar up all year long, and it's got pictures of my grandfather who's passed away, of my husband's family members who have passed away, of one of my beloved teachers. We have the ashes of our former cat on our ancestor altar. It's honoring those who have given you life and love in your life to keep their spirits alive.
remember them, right?
Absolutely.
To remember their stories and the things that touch our heart. I love that. I love being in the memory, because it's right. That's how we live on past this in people's lives, is through those memories, through remembering what they offered, what they gave to us, what they did in their lives. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Having an altar. Your book is really about ritual too. You have lots of rituals in there. How would you define ritual for people that don't understand ritual and what ritual means? What's ritual to you?
Yeah, ritual is an acknowledgement of the mysterious. So it can be very elaborate, where you burn herbs to cleanse yourself and take a ritual bath to cleanse yourself and prepare yourself for this ritual, and wearing very specific fine garments, and creating sacred space and calling in different entities to witness your rite. It can be very dramatic and very long, or it can be lighting a candle and saying, "I miss you, Grandma," and lighting that candle as a way of honoring and performing ritual. So the word ritual, at least for me, I often think of something, my first thought in my brain is something complex and drawn out and complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Any moment that you pause and acknowledge mystery, acknowledge magic, that is a ritual. And so there is a way to bring that into your everyday world. You can ritualize any part of your life. You can making dinner every night is a ritual. If you do it with love and intention, then the ritual becomes one of feeding your family with love and intention, right? So anything can be a ritual. But I am a bit of I enjoy the dramatic. I have a bit of a flair for the dramatic. So I do love the long, drawn out, complicated rituals. I think, again, not being raised in a specific religion, I didn't have any a script for what ritual looked like. So when I started attending events from different traditions and faiths, I got to pick and choose the things that I found really juicy and interesting and inspiring. And so I like the burning of incense and the lighting of candles and the saying things that rhyme. For me, that's really fulfilling. And I know that that's not true for everyone. So it might just be lighting the candle and saying, "I miss you, Grandma." And both of those things are valid. It's just pausing, taking a moment to acknowledge mystery, acknowledge the divine. That's a ritual.
I love that. I love that. So share with us your milk and honey store. What do you have in this sweet store above San Francisco? If we came to your store, what are some of the cool things that you have there?
Yeah, we have a lot. We have a ton of jewelry, all different kinds, pendants, rings, necklaces. We feature a lot of local artists, so you get things that are one of a kind, which is, one of our claim to fame is it's one of a kind, a lot of one of a kind local people. The whole center of our store is stones and crystals and rocks, and so there's little bowl after little bowl after little bowl of everything: amethyst, chrysocolla, rose quartz, citrine, you name it. We've got the whole center of our shop filled with crystals and rocks and gems. We've got leather journals and statuary. We've got ritual products, so magical oil blends and incenses, different kinds of herbs and cauldrons and incense burners and things like that for ritual. We carry a ton of tarot cards and oracle card decks. We have an extensive book collection. And then we also, in normal years, this year's 2020 has been a little bit different, but in normal years, we have a little room in the back where we do tarot readings and different treatments. And we have a little space where we do classes and in-person workshops. And we have a community altar where people can come in and light a candle and leave either a prayer or a blessing. And that's, a free thing. People come in to burn their blessing candles on our community altar pretty regularly. So it's, it's a little eclectic. It's got a little bit of everything for the magical shopper.
I love that. I love that. I love the community altar. How fun is that?
Yeah.
So if, do you have any offerings where people anywhere, like services or classes that you offer for folks that might be able to connect in with you that are interested?
Yeah, absolutely. So the community altar is also available on our website at milk-and-honey.com. So if you do have a prayer or a blessing, just send us an email and we will light a candle and add your prayer to the community altar. So that's accessible to anyone worldwide and at no charge. And we just updated our class schedule for the first quarter of 2021. So because of the current restrictions, we've taken all of our in-person classes online, which has meant we've got people from all over attending our classes, which is so fun. So it's so fun to have people from all over the place in our Zoom classes. So if you go to our website, you can see the list of classes that are being offered starting in January. But we have an intro to witchcraft class, the art of spell crafting. And then I do these monthly workshops about different goddesses, just a little bit of history, a little bit of culture, and then we do a ritual together over Zoom for that specific goddess. So Inanna is the goddess we're working with in January. So that's also on our website. You can find all those details. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun. We'll be happy to share that with our community. We are finding too with our Zoom programs are getting people from everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it's
able
fun.
to find us. You know, I had somebody from Australia on my last one, and it was like, wow, you know, all over the world. So pretty awesome.
It's so great.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for joining us today and being part. I really wanted to be able to share some of this wisdom and information because I love your perspective and being able to see that and share that with others that may not have had an opportunity to really connect, like Dave today. Some, just a wider perspective of people connecting to their spirituality in different ways. So I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great chatting with both of you.
So again, for our listeners, her book is What is Remembered Lives, Developing Relationships with Deities, Ancestors, and the Fae. And I have a website for you of www.phoenix, Phoenix, LeFae, LeFae.com. And so that's a good place for people to go, as well as your shop website, which you better tell us that one again.
Yeah, it's www.milk-and-honey.com.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning about your world.
Thank you.
You've been very helpful. Thank you. And for our listeners, thank you for listening today. Please stay with us for messages from several of our practitioners at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I'm sure you'll find the information very interesting. Take care.
I am Deborah Peter. I am a cranial sacral therapist. I had a career in accounting and finance for 20 years and had an opportunity to change pathways and decided to pursue a career in massage therapy because I was fascinated with the body. And that career in massage therapy then led me to cranial sacral therapy. Cranial sacral therapy is a body work modality that works with the nervous system and is beneficial for anything that the nervous system plays a part in. That includes trauma, any tension patterns in the body that are being held by the muscles or the fascia, headaches, chronic pain or any pain that the medical community has not been able to find a reason for. So basically anything that the nervous system has a part in. A session is often generally 60 to 90 minutes long. The person relaxes on a massage table, fully clothed. The session can sometimes involve dialoguing, or the person is just able to go into a deeply relaxed state. The therapist, myself, looks for tension patterns and feels for tension patterns in the body and looks to help the body release those tension patterns. In this world, we're often in a state of fight or flight, and this work helps bring the body down into more of a rest and digest space, which is really where healing happens, because the body has its own way of healing, and I'm there to support the person in their process of releasing restrictions and tension patterns and emotions that are often held in the body and limiting their ability to fully engage in the world. I'm available Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I have offices in Inglewood as well as Littleton here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can reach me at my website at harmonyridgemassage.com, or you can give me a call at 303-725-5800. I also offer a 20-minute free consultation over the phone if anybody's interested in more information or to find out if craniosacral therapy could help them with anything that they're dealing with. I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Christina Morris. I am the founder and president of Balance and Bliss Energy Healing. I'm a medical intuitive and high vibrational healer. I work with the energy fields. My scope of practice is energy medicine. Anything above and beyond that, for outside care, we'll need to refer you out there. But I do use crystals and aromatherapy in my healings, and I help manage pain. We help move some of the pain out of the body that might be coming from stagnant energy within the field, as well as, we get to the root of the problem with, any emotional trauma and find out what's going on that could be causing more stagnant energy to be left in your aura, which in turn can cause illness and pain and a lot of other issues that we tend to see throughout our day-to-day lives. And then I can be reached by appointment. You can make appointments anytime, any day of the week. I do work Monday through Friday in the evenings from about 5:30 to 8:30. Your first session can be about an hour and a half because we get to know one another. We kind of go through what's going on, and then any session thereafter would run about 50 minutes to an hour. And I can be reached through my website at balanceandblissenergyhealing.com. My email is balanceandblissenergyhealing@gmail.com. And I can also be reached via phone or text at 720-696-0286. And I look forward to any, potential clients. If you have any referrals or if you are in need of any of my services, I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Heather Nichols. I'm a soul journey coach and the owner of Soulful Essence and Wellbeing. For the past several years, I've been on a quest to fulfill my full purpose of healing my past so I may learn to love myself unconditionally. I want to show others how they can do the same thing for themselves. My journey officially began in 2015. I became a Reiki master teacher to be a conduit of healing for myself and others. And I've always had an interest in hypnosis and self-development. And I finally stepped forward in my passion and found a program that helped me release negative emotions that were keeping me stuck in my past. I became a certified practitioner in this wonderful program and later studied Akashic records and many other healing modalities. I'm beginning my new class series starting in March, and this class is for people who are ready to release emotional trauma and blocks from their past. This can be from past lives or this life. During this class, we'll explore what impact anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt has in our lives, how we react to people and situations because of our state of mind, why it's important to forgive ourselves and others. Then it's time to release. And we'll use time techniques to release anger and sadness, a guided meditation to release additional negative emotions, and I'll be giving you a workbook so that you can journal about your experiences. The class schedule is from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on the following days: Saturday, March 14th, Saturday, April 11th, Sunday, May 24th, Saturday, June 13th, Sunday, July 19th, Saturday, August 15th. and you can register at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Facebook, Meetup, or Eventbrite, or at Soulful Essence and Wellbeing on Facebook. You can also register on my website at Soulful Essence, the letter N, wellbeing.com/classes. I look forward to seeing you in my class.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.